Post 1. So, I didn't think I'd ever be writing here, but this situation has gotten under my skin, and I can't stop thinking about it. I live in a mid-size apartment building. Nothing fancy, but it's nice enough. I've been here for about 3 years, and in that time, I've made a solid little group of friends with some of my neighbors. We do casual stuff together, movie nights, potlucks, and once a week, we have a Dungeons and Dragons campaign going. It's honestly been a lifesaver for me socially. I'm a quieter person by nature, and I don't have a huge family nearby, so this group really means a lot to me. Enter Carla. Carla moved into the building about 4 months ago. At first, I thought she was nice. She's very bubbly and talkative, and she introduced herself to everyone within the first week. But the more time I've spent around her, the more I realize she's one of those pick-me types. She doesn't just want friends, she wants to be the center of everything, and it's gotten exhausting fast. It started small. She'd compliment people in a way that actually insulted someone else. Like, she told one neighbor, "You're so good at cooking." Not everyone just brings chips like some people, right after I'd brought chips to the potluck. At first, I brushed it off. Maybe she didn't realize how it came across. But then it started happening more often. If I made a joke, she'd one-up me with a louder, flashier comment. If I mentioned a show I liked, she'd say she already watched it forever ago and had moved on to something cooler. The real tension started with the D and D group. It's a closed game. We'd all been playing together for over a year, and we were pretty settled into our dynamic. Carla found out about it one evening when a few of us were talking in the lobby. She immediately lit up and said she'd always wanted to try it, and could she join? A couple of people were polite and said something like, "Oh, we're mid-campaign right now." But she didn't let it drop. She kept asking questions, making jokes about being the sexy elf character, and saying she'd be so fun at the table. Eventually, she cornered Tom, our DM, separately, and, from what I gather, guilt-tripped him into inviting her to sit in for just one session. He reluctantly agreed, and before we knew it, Carla was at our next game night with snacks and dice, acting like she'd been part of the group forever. That first session was rough. Carla kept derailing the story to make flirty jokes about her character or to talk over quieter players. She'd giggle and say things like, "Oh my God, don't make me roll for that. I'm too pretty to fail." The rest of us tried to politely redirect, but she just doubled down. Afterward, I figured maybe she just needed time to get used to how D&D works, but the next week, she showed up again, uninvited. Tom admitted she'd texted him directly and said everyone loved having her, so he didn't want to be the bad guy and tell her no. Since then, she's inserted herself into every session. Now here's where it gets worse. During a recent game, I had a really good roleplay moment. My character had a big emotional scene, and everyone was leaning in and listening. When I finished, Carla laughed loudly and said, "Wow, someone's really auditioning for Best Actress here. Trying to get all the attention, huh?" The room went awkwardly quiet. I mumbled something like, "It's just part of my character," but I felt humiliated. After that, she kept making little digs at me, calling me quiet girl in a fake sweet voice, or saying, "Don't be jealous just because I'm everyone's favorite new player." Nobody laughed, but nobody called her out either. I know it sounds childish, but it really hurt. This group has been my safe space, and now I feel like I'm being pushed out of it in favor of someone who thrives on putting me down. It's like she wants to prove she's more fun, more interesting, more worth people's time than me, and I am just supposed to smile and take it. To make things worse, she's started hanging out with some of the others outside of game nights. She'll post selfies on Instagram with captions like, "Movie night with my besties," and tag everyone except me, even if I was literally there. It feels intentional, like she's trying to erase me from the group dynamic. I don't know how to handle this without sounding petty. If I bring it up, she'll probably spin it as me being insecure or jealous. But if I keep quiet, I feel like she's just going to keep pushing me further to the margins until I'm not part of the group at all. So, am I the jerk for feeling like Carla is trying to replace me in my own friend group and wanting to confront her about it? Comments. U/Dyson Coffee. She sounds exhausting. You're not imagining this. She's deliberately putting you down to boost herself. Talk to Tom and the others about how she makes you feel. U/chaotic neutral 420. I think you're just jealous. She's fun and social, and maybe people do like her more. That's not her fault. Update 1. I didn't think this story would get much attention, but your comments honestly gave me more perspective than I expected. A lot of people told me that if I didn't speak up soon, Carla would cement herself in the group as the fun one, while I quietly became the outsider. That really hit me, because that's exactly how it's been feeling. So, before our next D&D night, I decided to test the waters with Tom. He's been running our campaign for over a year, and he was the one who invited me in the first place, so I figured he'd understand. I pulled him aside when we were grabbing snacks and said, as plainly as I could, Carla's comments are starting to feel personal. I don't want to overreact, but I feel like she singles me out more than anyone else. Tom sighed and rubbed the back of his neck. He admitted he had noticed the tension. He said he only let Carla join because she asked so many times, and he didn't want to make things awkward in the building. He kept saying things like, I thought it would be easier than saying no, and I didn't think she'd cause drama. I told him she was already causing drama, just in subtle ways that were easy to brush off if you weren't on the receiving end. To his credit, Tom did agree to say something. When the group settled in that evening, he gave a little speech before we started playing. He said, let's make sure everyone gets a turn, don't talk over each other, and let's keep things friendly. It was a mild, generic kind of statement, but it was something. Carla responded right away, like she'd been waiting for it. She laughed and said, oh, of course. I'd never want anyone to feel left out. I just tease people to make them feel included. She said it with this syrupy, sweet smile that didn't reach her eyes, and I felt like she'd just painted me as humorless before I'd even rolled a die. For most of the session, she kept things dialed back. A little quieter, a little less needling. I almost thought maybe she'd gotten the message. But then my character failed a high-stakes roll. The whole table groaned in sympathy, but Carla pounced. She leaned across the table, grinning, and said, guess some people just can't stand not being the center of attention. She looked directly at me as she said it. I froze. Everyone laughed nervously, like they weren't sure if they were supposed to. Tom cleared his throat, but didn't actually say anything. One of the quieter players, Mark, muttered, that was kinda harsh, but Carla brushed it off immediately. I'm kidding. Don't be so sensitive. The rest of the game limped along, but the fun was gone for me. Every time I tried to speak in character, I caught Carla smirking at me, like she was waiting for me to mess up again. By the end of the night, I felt drained and humiliated. Afterward, 2 of my friends pulled me aside. One told me not to let her get under my skin, that Carla just likes to tease, and it wasn't worth taking seriously. The other admitted they'd noticed Carla seemed to pick on me more than anyone else, but they didn't want to rock the boat. That phrase keeps coming up. No one wants to rock the boat, but meanwhile, Carla's drilling holes in it. Then came the kicker. The very next morning, Carla posted a big group selfie from game night on Instagram. She captioned it, love playing with my favorite people, the Stars squad goals. Once again, she tagged everyone but me. I'm not going to lie, seeing that stung more than the snide comments. It was proof she's deliberately erasing me. It made me wonder if her endgame is to push me out completely. I don't know what her deal is, but I'm tired of feeling like an outsider in a group I helped build. Next time she pulls one of these digs, I'm seriously considering calling her out right there in front of everyone, instead of waiting for Tom to step in. So, am I the jerk for thinking of confronting her in front of everyone if she keeps targeting me? First comment, she's targeting you, no question. Call her out next time she tries to embarrass you. If she can dish it out in public, she can take it in public. Second comment, or maybe she just doesn't like you. Not everyone has to tag you in pictures or be your best friend. You might be taking it too personally. Update 2. I thought things might calm down after last week, but if anything, it's gotten worse. Carla seems to have decided that I'm her main competition for, I don't even know what. Male attention, social standing, being the loudest voice in the room. Whatever it is, she's doubling down. The next session, she walked in carrying homemade brownies. That would have been a nice gesture, except she immediately announced, I baked these for my real friends. She set the container down in front of the table, then added with this pointed little smirk, Everyone grab one. Oh, unless you're counting calories, of course. She looked straight at me when she said it. I laughed it off at the time because what else could I do? But the air in the room shifted. People chuckled awkwardly, and one friend tried to change the subject quickly. Still, it was obvious who she'd meant to target. Later that evening, I overheard her in the kitchen talking to two of the guys. She didn't see me coming around the corner. She was saying, "It's just so sad. Some people can't stand it when someone new shows up. Like, they're so desperate to be the center of everything that they freak out if the attention shifts for 2 seconds." She didn't use my name, but she didn't have to. The guys nodded along uncomfortably, and one even said, "Well, maybe she just needs time to adjust." Carla laughed like she'd won some kind of point. After that night, things spiraled online. She started posting more photos from the group, always with captions like, "Best crew ever," or "Love my people." Sometimes she'd even tag me in the photo description, but crop me halfway out of the actual picture. Other times, she just didn't tag me at all. It felt intentional, like she was curating this narrative where I was the odd one out. I finally brought it up to one of my closer friends in the group, someone I've known since college. I asked her straight out if I was imagining things. She sighed and said, "You're not imagining it. Carla clearly doesn't like you, but the guys think she's funny, and she does bring some energy. Nobody wants drama." That phrase again, "nobody wants drama." Apparently, I'm supposed to just take the jabs, the exclusion, and the little digs because pointing them out would be making it worse. Meanwhile, Carla keeps ramping things up because no one stops her. The tipping point came at our latest session. My character had a big moment in the story. I'd been building toward it for weeks, and Tom even hinted ahead of time that he was excited to see what I'd do. Right as I started describing my character's decision, Carla interrupted. "Ugh, here we go. The princess speech." She rolled her eyes so hard, it felt like the whole table could see it. Everyone froze. I was mid-sentence, my heart pounding, and suddenly I couldn't get the words out. Tom tried to redirect, but Carla just kept going. No, seriously. Every time she talks, it's like a monologue. I guess some people really love the sound of their own voice. I wanted to cry, right there at the table. Instead, I forced myself to keep going with my character, even though my voice was shaky. The scene that should have been a triumph felt ruined. And when we wrapped up, Carla laughed and said, "See? That wasn't so bad." The worst part? A couple of the guys actually laughed along with her. They didn't defend me. They didn't tell her to stop. They just let it slide, like it was harmless teasing. After the game, I told Tom privately that I couldn't keep playing like this. He looked genuinely sorry, but also cornered. He said, "If I ask her to leave, it'll cause a blow-up. She'll turn everyone against me. I thought maybe it would sort itself out." But it hasn't sorted itself out. It's getting more toxic every week. I'm starting to wonder if her goal all along was to worm her way into the group and push me out completely. And it might be working. People are starting to laugh with her instead of standing by me. I feel like I'm being erased from my own circle of friends, the people I've known for years, because one loud neighbor decided I was her rival. So now I'm stuck. Do I risk being the dramatic one by calling her out publicly? Or do I walk away from a group I love and let her win? First comment, she's projecting her own jealousy onto you. Classic pick me behavior. Tear another woman down to look good in front of the guys. If you leave, she wins. Second comment, maybe everyone just likes her better. If she's fun and you're quiet, that's not her fault. Groups evolve, and maybe this one's just not for you anymore. Update 3. I think I've officially reached my breaking point. This past weekend was supposed to be a big session for our campaign. Tom had planned out a dungeon crawl with puzzles, traps, and a big boss fight. Everyone was hyped, and I was looking forward to finally enjoying myself again. I'd even decided ahead of time that no matter what Carla said, I was going to ignore her and focus on the game. Of course, Carla found a way to make it about me anyway. Things started fine. She showed up late as usual, talking loudly about how the boys had begged her to come because they didn't want to play without her. Nobody had begged her. The game would have gone on regardless, but she said it like she was the life of the party. Then she plopped down next to one of the guys I've been friends with for years, deliberately switching her seat so I was across from her instead of next to my usual group. It felt like she was drawing a battle line. For most of the session, she was her typical self, cracking jokes, interrupting others mid-description, loudly laughing at her own lines. I gritted my teeth and stayed quiet, determined not to give her the satisfaction of a reaction. But the closer we got to the boss fight, the more restless she became. Finally, when my turn came to roll, Carla leaned back in her chair and said loudly enough for everyone to hear, "Wow, here comes Miss Spotlight again. She can't stand it when the guys are having fun without her. She just has to make it about her every single time." The room went dead silent. My hand froze on the dice. Carla wasn't done. She leaned forward, her eyes locked on me with this almost gleeful expression. You know what it is? She's jealous. She hates that everyone likes me better. She acts all shy and sweet, but really, she's desperate for attention. And it's pathetic. I swear, my stomach dropped to the floor. It was like she'd ripped open every insecurity I've ever had and thrown it on the table for everyone to see. One of the guys cleared his throat and muttered, "Carla, chill." But he didn't actually defend me. Another just looked away, clearly uncomfortable, but unwilling to speak up. Tom, bless him, tried to redirect again, but by then I couldn't focus. I could feel my face burning and my throat tightening like I was about to cry. That was the moment I realized I couldn't just sit there and let her keep doing this. So I finally spoke up. I looked straight at her and said, "Carla, you've been attacking me since the day you showed up. You've made comments about my body, my voice, my character, and now you're calling me jealous in front of my own friends. I'm done pretending this is just teasing. You're a bully, and I'm not playing with you anymore." You could have heard a pin drop. Carla blinked like she hadn't expected me to actually call her out. Then, right on cue, she laughed. "Oh my God, you're so dramatic. I was just joking. Everyone knows you can't take a joke." I stood up and gathered my stuff. My hands were shaking, but I kept my voice as steady as I could. "If this is your idea of a joke, then no thanks. I've been friends with these people for years, and I won't let you ruin this for me. Either she stops or I'm out." Tom looked torn. The rest of the group shifted uncomfortably. Carla smirked like she already knew the answer. And then Tom said something that surprised me. "Carla, if you can't play without insulting people, maybe this group isn't for you." Carla's jaw dropped. She sputtered something about how I'd manipulated him and how the guys liked her better anyway, but Tom didn't back down. "This is supposed to be fun," he said firmly, "not toxic. Either you apologize right now, or we're done." Carla didn't apologize. She grabbed her bag, muttered something about losers, and stormed out. I sat there stunned, half expecting the others to chase after her. But they didn't. One of the guys even muttered, "Honestly, good riddance." For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe again. I don't know if Carla will try to worm her way back in somehow. She seems like the type to hold a grudge. But at least for now, the group feels like mine again. And hearing Tom back me up in front of everyone meant more than I can say. So maybe I wasn't crazy after all. Maybe I really was being pushed out. But I stood up for myself, and it actually worked. First comment, finally. Someone called her out. That jealous projection was classic. Glad Tom stepped up too. Second comment, careful though. People like Carla don't just disappear. She might try to stir things up outside the group now. Stay firm with your boundaries. Update 4. I thought Carla storming out of the campaign would be the end of it. Silly me. At first, things were blissfully calm. The next session without her was probably the most fun we've had in months. Everyone was relaxed, laughing, actually focusing on the game instead of bracing for the next snide comment. I even caught myself enjoying the silence between turns. No interruptions, no need to defend myself. It was like we'd gone back to how things were before Carla ever showed up. But Carla wasn't done. A few days later, I started noticing cold shoulders from a couple of mutual acquaintances, people who had hung around the group for board game nights or casual hangouts. One even unfollowed me on social media. I was confused until another friend quietly pulled me aside and showed me screenshots. Carla had been busy. She posted these long, vague rants about fake friends who couldn't handle being around someone confident. She claimed she was kicked out of the campaign because she was too much fun and someone couldn't handle the competition. She never named me directly, but she didn't have to. Anyone who'd been around knew exactly who she was talking about. And it worked. A few people bought into her narrative, calling her brave for standing up to mean girls. She even started hanging out with some of the guys from our wider friend circle, trying to build her own group while painting herself as the victim of mine. At first, I wanted to defend myself. I drafted a whole post explaining what really happened. But before I could hit post, Tom messaged me. He told me not to bother. Anyone who matters already knows the truth. If you start fighting online, you'll just look like you're sinking to her level. He was right, so I stayed quiet. Carla didn't stop, though. She escalated. One afternoon, I ran into her at the coffee shop near our apartment building. She was with two of the guys she'd been recruiting into her circle. As soon as she saw me, she raised her voice so I could hear. Careful, boys. She's jealous of anyone who gets more attention than her. Don't let her ruin your fun, too. I froze. My instinct was to shrink away, but something in me snapped. I turned, looked her dead in the eye, and said, Carla, projecting doesn't make your problems go away. I'm not jealous of you. I just don't want toxic people in my life. Her friends looked awkward. Carla sputtered, laughed too loudly, and said, See? She can't even take a joke. But I didn't stick around. I grabbed my coffee and left. The next day, two of the guys she'd been trying to recruit reached out separately. Both apologized for not speaking up in the moment. One admitted they'd realized pretty quickly that Carla's fun was just tearing other people down. The other said, honestly, she seems obsessed with you. It's weird. That last part stuck with me. It really does feel like obsession. Carla has tried every angle: charm, insults, playing the victim, rallying others. And when none of it worked, she doubled down. She even sent me a late-night text saying, I don't know why you hate me so much. I was just trying to fit in. Maybe you should stop being so insecure. I didn't respond. Instead, I've doubled down on boundaries. She doesn't get access to me, my time, or my friends. If she shows up at the coffee shop, I leave. If she posts vague nonsense online, I scroll past. And if anyone asks, I tell them the truth plainly. Carla insulted me one too many times. I don't want her in my life. That's it. It's been exhausting, but also strangely liberating. I'm realizing how much energy I wasted worrying about her opinion. Now that I've stopped feeding the fire, she's flailing harder and harder to get a reaction. Maybe one day she'll get bored. Maybe not. But either way, I'm done letting her live rent-free in my head. First comment. You handled that coffee shop moment perfectly. Standing your ground without getting dragged into drama, that's strength. Second comment. Sounds like she's desperate to keep you engaged. Keep starving her of attention. People like that usually burn themselves out eventually. Update 5. I didn't expect things to escalate again, but Carla seems determined to prove me wrong. The weeks after the coffee shop incident were surprisingly quiet. I thought maybe she'd finally taken the hint and moved on. But then, whispers started trickling back to me. Apparently, Carla was telling anyone who would listen that I'd bullied her out of the D&D group and that she was starting her own campaign where everyone is welcome. At first, I laughed. The idea of Carla running a campaign felt absurd. She never paid attention to the rules and half the time treated the story like background noise. But sure enough, a couple of acquaintances joined. They even invited me to watch a stream of one of their sessions. I didn't bother. Tom later told me it fell apart after just 3 weeks because Carla kept making everything about herself, ignoring the game in favor of trying to stir drama. After that failure, Carla doubled down on making herself the center of attention. She started showing up at every social event she wasn't invited to. Birthdays, board game nights, even a barbecue one of our friends hosted in the building courtyard. Each time, she'd find some way to corner me. At the barbecue, she leaned in and said, loud enough for half the table to hear, It must be exhausting trying to keep everyone under your thumb. Don't worry, people are starting to see through you. I didn't rise to it. I just turned to my friend Mia and asked if she wanted another drink. Carla fumed, but I refused to give her the satisfaction of reacting. And here's the thing. People did start seeing through her. One by one, the acquaintances who'd followed her at first drifted back to us. They realized her version of fun was exhausting, and her obsession with me was uncomfortable. Several of them even apologized for buying into her narrative. The final straw came when Carla tried to crash our campaign again. She showed up uninvited, dice in hand, and announced she was ready to be the bigger person. Tom, bless him, Dola stood up and blocked the door. He told her flatly that she wasn't welcome, that the group was happier without her, and that it was time for her to move on. Carla's face turned red. She spat out, "Of course you all side with her. She's been manipulating you from the start. She's jealous because people like me better." Tom didn't budge. "No, Carla. People just don't like being insulted every time they open their mouths." Carla stormed off, and this time she didn't come back. Since then, she's been quieter. Not silent. She still posts vague complaints online, but she's no longer hovering around us. She seems to have realized she's burned too many bridges here. For me, it's been a relief. Our sessions are fun again. The wider friend circle feels lighter, calmer, without her constant drama. I don't even feel angry at her anymore, just tired. I know some people might wonder why I didn't just confront her more directly earlier on, but honestly, starving her of attention worked better than any argument ever could. In the end, she revealed herself, so that's where things stand. Carla tried to pick me her way into our lives, and when it didn't work, she imploded. And me? I'm just glad to have my peace back. First comment. Good on Tom for shutting the door. That must have felt so validating to see someone else draw the line for you. Second comment. Carla sounds like she thrives on attention. Now that she's burned her bridges, she'll either move or find a new group to bother. You handled this better than most would. Final update. It's been almost a year since all the Carla drama, and honestly, life feels lighter without her constant presence. She did eventually move out of the building. I don't know the details. Rumor has it she clashed with her landlord over noise complaints and unfair treatment. Whatever the case, she packed up quietly and slipped away. I can't say I miss seeing her hovering in the lobby. Our D&D group is thriving. We wrapped up the campaign Tom started back when all this began, and it was such a satisfying ending. We've since started a new one, and I even stepped up to DM a short arc myself. The group is supportive, creative, and, most importantly, drama-free. Looking back, it amazes me how much space Carla tried to take up in my head. At the time, every snide comment, every backhanded dig felt huge. Now, with distance, I see it for what it was. Her insecurities spilling out and landing on anyone nearby. I wasn't special. I was just the target she fixated on. The friends who stuck around through it all have become closer to me than ever. The experience weirdly strengthened our circle. There's this unspoken agreement now. We protect each other from anyone who tries to stir chaos the way she did. As for Carla, I still see her name pop up on social media now and then. Same patterns, same vague posts about being misunderstood and betrayed by fake friends. It's almost sad, but I don't feel sorry for her anymore. She made her choices, and those choices had consequences. I've realized I don't need to carry the weight of her actions. I didn't lose friends. I didn't lose my community. In fact, I came out of it with stronger bonds and more confidence in myself. So that's the end of the story. No dramatic showdown, no revenge plot. Just life moving on, better and calmer without the constant storm. And honestly, that's the best ending I could have hoped for. I could have hoped for.